let's rip off the mask and go straight for the nerve. You don't feel truly loved. You feel tolerated. And yes, that stings. It should. Because you were trained to chase approval like a starving man chases bread. Be nice. Be agreeable. Be patient. No one warned you that approval is a velvet trap. The more you chase it, the more you teach the world that you'll bend to keep it. You've smiled through discomfort, softened your words, over-explained your intentions, and without noticing, you turned yourself into a safe target. People don't test the sharpest blade on the table. They test the softest surface. Here's the darker truth no one wants to admit. Kindness, by itself, invites exploitation. Every over-smile, every unnecessary apology, every no worries when it did worry you. These don't make people respect you. They make them measure your threshold. They start asking, how far can I push before this person breaks? You already know love is fragile. It rises and falls with mood swings, hormones, and shifting loyalties. One mistake, one awkward sentence, one misunderstood moment, and admiration evaporates. Fear, when crafted correctly, does not. Not terror that humiliates or breeds hatred. That's stupidity. I'm talking about fearful respect. The quiet calculation others make when they realize that crossing your line will cost them. Machiavelli didn't romanticize people, and neither should you. He watched how power actually works and wrote the playbook. His verdict: in the arena of power, it's safer to be feared than loved. History is littered with leaders who tried to be universally adored and were devoured by the very crowds that cheered them. Excessive sweetness is read as softness. Softness is exploited. That's not cynicism, it's pattern recognition. Now, does this mean cruelty? No. Cruelty is lazy leadership. The intelligent version is balance. Power stands on two pillars: laws and force. Laws set limits. Force ensures limits are respected. Laws without force are a bedtime story. Force without laws is barbarism that breeds revolt. The leader who lasts understands the ratio. Enough authority to make boundaries real. Enough restraint to avoid unnecessary enemies. Your task isn't to terrify people. It's to make disrespect too expensive. If that sounds cold, look around. How many good people have you watched get trampled for being endlessly accommodating? How often has indulgence turned into permission for lateness, for sloppiness, for betrayal? You still want to believe love protects you. It won't. Respect protects you. Authority protects you. A measured fear, never crossing into hatred, keeps the worst impulses at bay. True power is not confetti and applause. It's the gravity in your presence that makes others calibrate before they speak. This is not a call to become a tyrant. It's a call to understand human nature. People don't respect what's always available. They respect what can disappear. They don't cherish what feels safe to insult. They cherish what might withdraw access. Be fair, but be firm. Be kind, but never indulgent. Anticipate betrayal, and have pre-decided responses that require no emotion to execute. When the moment of collision comes, and it will, the only thing that keeps you standing is the authority you've built quietly over time. A few rules from the hard school. People forget favors fast. They do not forget consequences. They get used to constant strength and start taking it for granted. Deploy strength in select moments, and it becomes legendary. Unpredictability used sparingly is your ally. Predictable leaders are easy to prepare for. Unreadable leaders are hard to challenge. Don't shout to be heard. Speak rarely and decisively so your words carry the weight of decisions, not requests. And stop trying to be universally pleasing. That obsession robs you of self-command. The leader who needs to be liked becomes a weather vane always turning, never steering. Real leadership requires unpopular decisions. Moves that won't be applauded today, but will be respected later when the outcomes arrive. Ask yourself, do you want claps now or compliance when it counts? We need to talk about loneliness, because it's part of the contract. The higher you rise, the fewer people will understand your choices, and the more some will resent them. That's the paradox of power. The stronger your posture, the smaller your trusted circle. Accepting this is not a tragedy. It's freedom. When you stop needing emotional permission, you stop making emotionally driven mistakes. Keep close only those who proved loyal in bad weather, and keep a healthy distance from those who only enjoy the sunshine. Guard your intentions. Mystery is a shield. If people can fully map you, they can bait you. Hold something back always. Not because you're deceitful, but because transparency without discernment is self-harm. Your job isn't to reveal your heart, it's to show your standard. Learn what moves each person: fear, ambition, belonging, vanity, and you'll understand which lever to leave untouched and which to gently press. Machiavelli didn't write for villains, he wrote for realists. He knew most people act from self-interest first. Once you see this, you stop resenting reality and start steering it. Would you rather be seen as good or as strong? The world will tell you to choose good. Then it will punish you when good looks like weak. The answer is neither. Be strategically good and unmistakably strong. Generosity with a spine. Kindness with edges. Calm that doesn't beg to be liked. Final thought for this first step. Doubt ruins respect. Clarity seals it. If you waver on your boundary, you train people to test it again. If you enforce it calmly and consistently, the testing stops. Remember, popularity is a tide. Respect is bedrock. Build on tides and you drown. Build on bedrock and you lead. There's one rule you need to tattoo in your mind. Power is never possessed, only maintained. You don't own it, you rent it. Every day you must re-earn it through perception, through vigilance, through presence. The moment you relax into comfort, someone else begins preparing to take your place. That's not paranoia, it's physics. Power naturally flows toward whoever displays the most certainty. You can feel this truth in your bones. That quiet tension you carry, the need to always be alert, it's not weakness, it's the price of authority. Eternal vigilance is not optional. It's what keeps your mind sharp, your instincts awake, your decisions alive. The second you crave total peace, you stop leading. The edge, that constant awareness of danger, is what keeps you relevant. Machiavelli called this the abyss. The invisible line you must learn to walk without falling. But here's the twist most people miss. Power isn't brute force. It's a shared illusion, an agreement between you and everyone who acknowledges your command. You have authority because others believe you do. They follow because they accept the story that you should be followed. The laws, the force, the image. These are only props to sustain that belief. When the belief breaks, so does the power. That's why the greatest leaders are not the loudest, but the most psychologically precise. They constantly renew that unspoken agreement with their people, sometimes by reminding them of their strength, sometimes by showing restraint, sometimes by creating just enough uncertainty to keep others from taking their position for granted. It's a dance, a continuous negotiation of belief. You don't dominate people into obedience. You sustain the illusion that obedience is logical, beneficial, even inevitable. A tyrant forgets this. They believe their authority is absolute, and that delusion isolates them. They stop reading the room. They lose touch with how power actually breathes. And when that happens, their rule collapses. Not through revolution, but through slow disbelief. A leader, on the other hand, lives in constant awareness of that fragility. They know their crown is always balancing on a knife's edge, and that very tension, that understanding that nothing is guaranteed, becomes their discipline. The best leaders walk through uncertainty like dancers through fire, not fearless, but fluent. So ask yourself this: do you really want power, or are you just craving the security it seems to promise? Because real leadership doesn't offer comfort. It offers responsibility, risk, and constant self-control. True authority is never calm water. It's controlled turbulence. And yet, that's where greatness hides. Only those who can breathe under pressure, who thrive inside uncertainty, can change the world around them. You can recognize them instantly. They don't chase applause. They don't explain their every move. They don't need to win every argument. They radiate quiet command. Why? Because they understand that explanations are a tax paid by the insecure. The moment you start justifying every decision, you invite debate where there should be none. Power speaks through results, not rationalizations. The more words you use to prove you're right, the less right you seem. So stop explaining. Decide, act, and let the outcome justify you. Authority that constantly seeks approval becomes self-sabotage. Real confidence leaves gaps, silence that others fill with respect. People respect what they don't fully understand and fear what they can't predict. Let mystery do some of the work for you. Be visible, but never transparent. Now, understand something crucial. Power is taken, not given. But once taken, it must be managed with wisdom. Abuse it, and hatred festers. Use it timidly, and it dissolves. Your goal is equilibrium. To make others aware of your capability for force, without ever needing to demonstrate it recklessly. Manage respect. Calibrate fear. Hatred burns bridges, but well-measured fear builds walls of protection. Because at the end of the day, whoever understands the psychology behind respect and fear controls the room, and eventually the reality itself. The human mind bows not to love, but to certainty. People follow the one who seems least afraid of losing control. So craft that certainty deliberately. It's not about pretending to be fearless. It's about mastering the art of staying composed even when you aren't. Calm under pressure is the highest currency in power. Now, there's a thin, dangerous line between fear and hatred. Cross it, and you turn loyal followers into sworn enemies. But walk it with grace, and you become untouchable. You must learn to detect the difference. If someone fears you, they obey when you're present. If someone respects you, they act in your name even when you're not. Fear gives you temporary compliance. Respect gives you permanence. The key is rhythm, knowing when to tighten control and when to loosen it. Total dominance suffocates. Strategic allowance strengthens. Give people moments to err, to realize how much your structure protects them. Let them stumble safely. When they fall, they'll understand your value without you needing to announce it. A master doesn't force dependence. He lets reality prove his importance. It's not cruelty, it's education. The most effective leaders don't dictate answers. They provoke questions. They plant thoughts that grow into loyalty. When people start asking, "What would they do in my place?" you've already won. Your influence has transcended presence. It's now internalized. The same applies to rivals. Don't rush to eliminate every threat. Let some of them exist. A visible rival creates tension, and tension reminds everyone what happens when someone challenges you. Their eventual defeat becomes your silent advertisement. Let them act freely, thinking you haven't noticed. When the right moment comes, expose their weakness publicly. That's not just victory, that's demonstration. In leadership, every rival you outlast reinforces your myth. Observation is your invisible weapon. Watch without reacting. Gather patterns, habits, contradictions. Let them believe you're oblivious. Then, when they least expect it, use the knowledge you've stored. Surprise, in Machiavellian terms, is power distilled into one act. Never attack first. Wait for the perfect moment when truth itself becomes your sword. That's how legends rule quietly, without theatrics, yet unmistakably. Every leader, no matter how disciplined, eventually faces a storm. A moment when authority slips, when confidence wavers, when everything you've built seems to tremble. That moment defines you more than all your triumphs combined. Because leadership isn't proven when the world bows. It's proven when the world breaks around you, and you remain unmoved. When panic spreads, calm becomes the rarest power in the room. In crisis, people look not for explanations, but for anchors. If you crumble, you give them permission to do the same. But if you stand still, cold, centered, even when chaos rages, you transmit stability stronger than words ever could. Machiavelli understood this. Fear and respect are built not through speeches, but through composure. The true leader radiates self-control when everyone else loses it. That's when respect multiplies tenfold. Never forget this paradox. You gain authority not from avoiding crises, but from mastering them. Most people can appear powerful when things go well. Only the few who can stay strategic when the structure collapses earn real loyalty. Every time you hold your ground during chaos, you rewrite how others see you. You become the reference point, the standard, the fixed object in a spinning world. That's how legends are carved. But how do you reach that level of composure? Through detachment. You must learn to separate your emotions from your role. Feel everything, but act on nothing until you've analyzed it. A leader who reacts impulsively becomes a slave to circumstances. A leader who observes first and moves later turns every crisis into a controlled performance. The crowd sees calm. Behind the mask, you're processing options. Never let your emotions dictate your moves. Let your moves dictate how others feel. Here's a secret. Silence is one of your most powerful tools. Strategic silence doesn't show weakness. It provokes uncertainty. When you withhold your reaction, others start filling the silence with their own fears, their own insecurities. You control the room without speaking a word. You make people question what you're thinking, what you're planning, whether they've crossed a line. And the longer they wonder, the more control you gain. Silence makes your presence feel larger than it is. But, and this is vital, tension must be managed like fire. Too little, and it fades. Too much, and it burns uncontrollably. Irrational fear mutates into hatred, and hatred corrodes everything it touches. The intelligent leader always senses the emotional temperature of the room. When tension reaches its breaking point, you ease it just slightly. A small gesture of understanding, a rare word of recognition. It resets the balance without giving up authority. This is not softness, it's mastery. Which brings us to another subtle instrument, praise. Most people underestimate how powerful it is when used sparingly. Overpraise is cheap. It becomes noise. But precise praise, delivered at the perfect moment, becomes unforgettable. A single acknowledgement from a respected leader carries more emotional weight than 100 compliments from flatterers. When you recognize someone strategically, you don't just reward behavior, you create loyalty. The trick is to make it rare. Scarcity makes your approval a currency worth earning. Now let's address your enemies, or rather, your rivals. You will have them, always. Some visible, some hidden. The most dangerous rival is not the one who attacks loudly, but the one who believes you haven't noticed them. Don't rush to crush opposition. That's what insecure rulers do. Let them exist just long enough to serve a purpose. Their presence reminds others that you are not untouchable, but formidable. Let them bark. Let the crowd watch. Then, when they fall, their downfall becomes your unspoken proof of strength. A rival's failure often teaches your followers more than your own victory ever could. It shows them the cost of defiance. It demonstrates that patience, not violence, is your real weapon. Let them believe they've outsmarted you. Let them overextend. The moment they expose their weakness, strike not out of emotion, but precision. In that single act, you reinforce your legend. A king who wins through patience inspires deeper respect than one who wins through wrath. Observation fuels all of this. Watch everyone. Listen more than you speak. Notice patterns, shifts in tone, sudden silences, subtle alliances forming around you. Every word people say and don't say is a clue. The art of leadership is 80% observation, 20% reaction. The less you reveal that you're watching, the more honest others will be in your presence. Let them think you're disinterested. Meanwhile, you're gathering data like a hawk scanning the ground. And when the time comes, you'll know exactly where to land. Now, let's talk about one of the hardest truths of leadership: the loneliness of power. No one truly prepares you for it. The higher you rise, the fewer people can relate to your choices. The same people who once supported you may begin to resent your distance, your composure, your strength. They'll call you cold, detached, but that's the tax of clarity. The air gets thinner at the top for a reason. Fewer can breathe it. Don't mourn this isolation. Learn to use it. Solitude clears noise. It keeps your motives clean. When you stop needing constant validation, you become impossible to manipulate. You start making decisions not for approval, but for effect. The loneliness that once felt like punishment becomes a shield. It separates you from those who crave comfort more than truth. Remember this: the moment you feel completely safe in power is the moment you're closest to losing it. Complacency kills authority faster than rebellion. The wise leader always feels a slight unease, not anxiety, but awareness, a subtle readiness. Because leadership is not about sleeping soundly. It's about being awake while others dream. This vigilance keeps you alert, adaptable, untouchable. And while others seek to be loved for who they are, you will be respected for what you represent. Love fades with misunderstanding. Respect endures through mystery. And in a world of endless noise, the one who masters silence and commands attention without demanding it holds the real power. There's an invisible law that governs every throne. Power must be renewed through perception. People don't follow the best leader. They follow the one who looks most in control. The illusion must never break. That's why mystery is essential. When people can't predict your next move, they hesitate. And hesitation is control. Reveal too much, and you hand them the map to your downfall. Always keep a layer of shadow between what you think and what they see. Silence, again, becomes your strongest weapon. The less you say, the more others project onto you. They start filling your silence with their own interpretations, fear, admiration, respect. The unknown version of you is always more powerful than the one they fully understand. Never explain your reasoning unless it serves a purpose. The need to justify yourself is a confession of insecurity. Let your outcomes speak, not your mouth. And yet, power is not constant domination. Absolute pressure makes followers numb. You must allow moments of space, of small freedom, so people remember how much easier life feels under your structure. Let them experience minor chaos, and they'll run back to your order willingly. This is how influence becomes self-sustaining. The clever leader doesn't enforce dependence. They allow people to choose it. Remember, the most effective teacher doesn't hand out answers. They plant questions. When your followers start thinking, "What would they do in my place?" that's when you've transcended presence. You no longer need to command. Your mindset commands for you. This is the highest form of leadership influence that lives in others' decisions long after you leave the room. Even in opposition, act with precision. Every rival is a stage, every confrontation a performance. Let your rivals exist just long enough to remind everyone why you are where you are. When they fall, don't celebrate, stay silent. Their silence will echo louder than your victory. The world will draw its own conclusions. But remember the delicate balance. Too much control breeds hate. Too much leniency breeds chaos. Your art is to hover between the two, firm but not cruel, kind but not indulgent, distant but not disconnected. People must feel both your warmth and your edge. They should never be certain which one they'll meet next. Machiavelli called this measured unpredictability. It's the rhythm of power, the way a lion rests before striking, the way thunder delays before the storm. Predictable leaders invite rebellion. Unpredictable ones inspire caution. So, craft your presence carefully. Every word, every pause, every gesture, it all builds your myth. Speak rarely, but with precision. Reward slowly, but decisively. Punish seldom, but unmistakably. A leader who controls timing, controls perception, and perception, more than force, is what rules the world. That's the essence of lasting power. To be feared without hatred, respected without explanation, and remembered without ever shouting. Every true leader eventually faces a collapse, that sharp, silent moment when loyalty fades, respect trembles, and even those closest begin to question. This is the point where most lose everything, not because their enemies are stronger, but because they panic. Power isn't lost through confrontation. It slips away through fear. The instant you look uncertain, the illusion of control cracks. And when that illusion breaks, everything follows. In chaos, people don't search for answers. They search for someone unshaken. The calmest presence becomes the compass. That's why composure is the purest form of dominance. Speak less, breathe slower, hold your ground when others fall apart, and the room will bend around you. Fear and respect both grow in silence. Machiavelli knew this. The strongest leader doesn't roar. They simply refuse to tremble. Crises are not interruptions of leadership. They are its test. Anyone can appear powerful in peace, but the one who remains strategic under pressure becomes unforgettable. Hold your posture, control your face, let your tone remain steady. These subtle things build a myth far stronger than force ever could. Because when you seem unbreakable, others start borrowing their confidence from you. But here's what many forget. Fear alone cannot hold people forever. It creates obedience, not devotion. The balance between respect and fear must breathe. Apply pressure, then release it just enough to keep others loyal without resentment. Absolute control exhausts people. Strategic restraint renews them. Let them fail within boundaries. Let them experience the difference between life with your guidance and life without it. They'll return, not from fear, but understanding. This is the rhythm of leadership: push and pull, tension and ease. Never constant, always deliberate. A wise leader knows when to step back just enough to magnify their importance. When you're always present, people grow blind to your value. But when you withdraw, even slightly, they feel your absence like oxygen leaving the room. That feeling, that awareness of your necessity, is your greatest weapon. Power, however, is never permanent. You don't own it, you maintain it, day by day, through perception. The moment people stop believing in your authority, it evaporates. That's why wise rulers never get comfortable. They understand power's fragility, its dependence on faith. The tyrant believes power is eternal and dies by his illusion. The strategist knows it's temporary and survives by awareness. True leadership means living with constant vigilance. That edge, the sense that you could lose it all at any moment, keeps you sharp. It keeps you alive. If you seek comfort, you'll fall asleep standing. But if you accept discomfort as part of the throne, you'll never truly fall. That's the paradox. The more uncertain power feels, the more secure it becomes in your hands. Rule yourself first. That's where every empire begins. Control your impulses, your temper, your pride. A man who can't govern his emotions will never govern others. Let your calm dictate the pace. Let your silence do the talking. The world doesn't follow perfection. It follows composure. And remember this: people forget the gifts you give them, but they never forget the boundaries you enforce. They forget kindness, but they remember fairness. They forget your warmth, but they never forget your balance. Leadership is not about being loved. It's about being remembered in silence, respected in absence, obeyed without explanation. So, when the world shakes again, and it will stand tall, speak little, and let your steadiness become the law. Because real power is not in the voice that commands, but in the presence that cannot be ignored. In the end, love fades. Fear exhausts. But respect lasts. And those who learn to balance all three will rule longer than any crown could promise.